Nerf Clan Blitzers. Today we're reviewing the Lorraine 40T, and we are going to be aided in this review by Goose, aka Object 9 from Shiro. The Lorraine 42 is a very, very strange tank, and the ultimate question is it worth it versus the AMX 5100? It's a neat tank because it's very, very fast, but as you see here, in terms of DPM and pen, and alpha, you can see that the 5100 is better, and the weapon handling is a little bit better on the Lorraine, and it is a rocket. Top speed is 60. What a tank. So let's jump into some replays and see, is it worth the buy? Okay, our first replay is at Desert Sands. Hey Goose, thanks for joining us here.
Yeah, all good. Ready to get these replays with the Lorraine.
Thanks, man. Well, thanks for inspiring me to do a review of the Lorraine. And the first video is myself, so I kind of figured we'd have one regular replay, regular person playing it, and then we got the pros. So you have two replays, myself one here. And as you see, I think I do what is good with this tank is get it into position and start firing at people. I watched your replays and learned a lot from it, actually, that I never engage anyone directly with this tank, always trying to fire off from a distance because it cannot handle a brawl for anything.
Oh, for sure. It does not have the capacity at all to handle a brawl. And to be honest, you can't necessarily play it like a medium or light. I mean, you kind of have to play it in between because of how long that reload is. Like, as soon as you're done with your clip, I mean, you just have to full-on wait it out. So that's why you have to play it from a distance and make sure that you're not spotted and make sure all 4 of your shells count.
Well, I did that here on this T28 Defender. I think the last one I bounced, but I was just shooting Pramo at its hatch, or its turret. And the thing of this tank is amazing at this speed. It is just an absolute rocket. And if you notice in this game, we're kind of in the lead here. And then I noticed there were 3 of the enemy tanks, including a T54, who had low health. So I pushed over to hit to them, trying to keep them spotted, essentially, playing an actual road of a medium here. Trying to get some shots off on that ISU, which was pretty dangerous, because an ISU, I think, can probably pin you almost anywhere with HE on this tank. But I didn't get hit there. And right there, I cleared the T54. I still have an ISU and I think it's an IS3, but it's already in this game as a 6-on-3. So I'm just using the tank to, get some shots off. I have to admit, I love the 4 loader on this tank. I mean, and by the way, I rammed here just to see what it would do. It did a pretty good ram on the IS3, like 250 damage to them and only about 200 to me. So this thing could ram with the speed that it has.
Oh, for sure. But like the Lorraine in general, I mean, it's definitely a tank that has way more cons than pros, especially like DPM wise, because I think the DPM is like 1900, and like the damage per shot out of all your 4 shells, like the average is like around 200 or so.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's like 800 to 900 damage, or 800 to 1000, like every single 20 seconds. So that's why the Lorraine is a very hard tank to play, because you have to play it very conservative, and you can't be just making some stupid decisions sometimes. But in my replay, like so far, I thought my team would have spotted them already, so that's why I decided to pull out. But I was not expecting to see all 3 of them. But the thing with the Lorraine is you have to make all 4 of your shells count, because as soon as you hit that 20-second reload, it's not going to work well with you if you've literally only wasted like 1 to 2 shots. So as long as you get 3 to 4 shells out per reload, then you'll be fine. But I mean, another thing that's wrong with the Lorraine is definitely like it can be HE like easily, and there's no doubt about that. And you just have to be playing it smart in general, because like any move that you make is either going to be really risky, or it's either going to be a smart play that can actually help out the team. And the Lorraine isn't really made to like farm damage. It's mainly just used to clear tanks and have the ability to use its mobility and get around and what's not. But I mean, that's just mainly the job of the Lorraine.
I totally agree. I mean, I haven't played this tank very much. I don't like it that well. I think the 5100 is better. And I don't like the 5100 either. So it's not like my favorite tanks to play. But I think you're right. It's not a sniper. It doesn't have, or a farmer in a way, because it doesn't have that great of a cannon. And the inner shell reload is only 2.5 seconds, which is not terrible. but it doesn't have any armor, so you can't just sit there and get hit while while you take that 7.5 seconds that it takes to get rid of your clip. So it's a really tricky tank, and I was surprised at its dispersion and lack of, how it's not a tank that you could really count on to snipe, because that's kind of what it can do well from a distance, but not so much with this cannon. I don't think it's that great. Maybe others like it better, but I like your position here. I mean, that's what you're kind of doing. You put yourself here in a place where you can get out and clear tanks. You took a big hit there from that 111. I'm surprised he didn't HE you in the front, but he might not be able to HE you in the front. I don't remember. I'd have to check I think it's got some frontal armor, albeit not a ton.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is like a lot of people. I mean, some people do underestimate the Lorraine's armor, especially like at the front.
Yeah.
Because I think so. It has like two. It has like two of those frontal plates, like just right at the front, and I think one of them is not HEable while the other one is. And the turret can be kind of troll as well, especially with the tracks. But other than that, like the sides and the rear, totally HEable, but like everything. So.
Well, that was a good game. You seemed to make it really easy, but I love the way you were playing the tank in a place that allowed you, as you said, to clear kind of everyone else. And I like that. It's kind of a clearer. It clears other tanks, and it's damn good at that. Your next free play is at Oasis Palms, and you played this. Tell us more about what your thoughts were, because I see you were going to kind of the C cap, and then you turned around. What were you thinking at the beginning of the match?
So, I mean, mainly what I do is to, like, wherever my team goes, I usually follow them. And, like, because I know if I go solo, especially in a Lorraine, you can't carry a side, considering how bad the DPM is and your armor is, and things like that. So I just decided to go with my team, and surprisingly, all the enemies were here, and they started pushing really aggressively. So I decided to head into this position right here where I know I have the mobility to back up easily and flank around if I really have to. And I'm just sitting back here, farming damage, being effective in the game, and not taking any unnecessary hits or shots.
Well, I think I've been kind of talking smack about this cannon, but you did a terrific job there with that EXP, and it does have very good pen. Like a lot of French tanks, it has very, very good pen. I mean, you can beat up some heavies with this tank if you're positioned correctly, right?
Oh, for sure. But now I'm just full on focusing this AMX down. I was hoping that one of my teammates would be able to get a shot on, which they did, and now I was thinking, you know what, I'm going to start helping clear out the tanks in the middle. It's going to be, because if my team can take position of the middle, then we will technically have like the entire town side of the map, which means that we'd only be having to focus on the sandy part, which is now what we start doing. So the first tank I noticed is because I also know that there are 3 tanks over here, and the first one I end up spotting is the Panther. I know the Panther is good DPM, and he's putting it to use by farming our tanks that are in the middle, currently getting shots off. So I said, you know what, I have the HP, and I have my full clip reload, and I have some teammates coming up behind me, so I'm just gonna full on load all 4 shells into that Panther, which is what I did. And now with my amazing power to weight ratio and my mobility, I do end up seeing and spotting both of those tanks. And I decided, okay, I could either go for that tank to the right, or I could go for the Borsig. And the Borsig is a tank that has 640 alpha and it has good penetration. So I'm just like, you know what, we're just gonna full send this guy. And especially with the ramming, I take him out, so that's a dangerous target taken out of the game. And now there's only one more, which is the T69. And of course he was on that reload, and our team was also demolishing the enemy team, so it was a very simple and easy win.
Well, it was easy and simple. You made it seem simple. I love that absolute demolition of that Borsig. There's nothing more satisfying than ramming everything you've got into a Borsig, in my opinion. So the last free play is a Canyon. It is by X Hecker is the name of the player. It's a European. It's from Europe, so you probably won't recognize a lot of the players in this. And he's in Canyon. And it's interesting here, he goes straight up top here with a Lorraine, which I would absolutely never do. Would you play it like this, out of curiosity?
I would not play it like this at all, because, well, he did get very lucky since the enemies all decided to go to that specific spot. He could have farmed more damage. I felt like he was definitely a little greedy, and he was a little too fast, because I think it was just a spike of adrenaline when he spotted all the enemies and just wanted to start farming. But he should have taken more time to aim there, especially. But nevertheless, he's in a very good position. I think he's trying to reset his camo right now, but also keep the enemies spotted for his team, which is really good. And now it should only come down to him having to farm and dish out that clip damage.
And he did. I mean, I should say this is the #1 game posted on BlitzStars for the Lorraine. So it's an absolute monster of a game. The thing is, it's kind of like one of these monster games. He really almost doesn't get rushed the entire game. Their team is just content to let him sit there and just pummel them. I can't explain why. Maybe that's what they do in the European server. I don't know. I might need to go to that server. They also don't yell at each other. I mean, there wasn't any cursing or yelling at each other. So it seems like a pretty nice server. We may have to give it a shot.
I mean, there's definitely a bigger player base on EU, and I guess this is just one. But I mean, the enemy team, they are making the right decision of not focusing the Lorraine. Because, I mean, the Lorraine, like, compared to all the other targets on his team, they aren't necessarily as dangerous. Because the Lorraine's, like, clip damage, like I've said before, 800 to 1,000, like, once you dish out all 4 shells, I mean, that's not really going to take off. Like, it's going to take off a good chunk of hit points from, like, a tier 8, but, like, a tier 9, it still won't be able to take off a lot of hit points. And so far, from what I'm seeing, I think it's the enemies who have the upper hand, because now, as you can see, they're starting to make some moves right. They're starting to get side shots in, especially, like, that KV4, starting to make some plays, especially in the town area.
Yeah.
And well, I'm excited to see what happens here, considering that now again, Lorraine is going to have to reposition.
Exactly. The downfall for this team is that the enemy team here split. In this KV4, I would have, if he had gone with the team that split, it's like a Tiger and an IS-3, essentially to the left of the Lorraine. If he had gone over, pushed the Lorraine, and gone with it, they had a chance. But they didn't do that, and so right now they're a fragmented team. I like what he does here. He just moves out of harm's way a little bit. And then, by the way, I started speeding up some of the replays here because the Lorraine 17-second is not fun. You just got to hide in the envelope. And he gets very fortunate to wreck that Tiger. And now they already got it to a 5-on-2 with that IS, I guess an IS-6 over here in in some type of a TD. I can't remember the TD, maybe and looks like an SU. So again, he just pummels him. He just keeps farming the entire team. It's not an exciting game, but he uses the Lorraine beautifully because he there gets his 4 shots and gets out of dodge. I mean, he just goes, lets his other teammates do what they need to do. He doesn't get overly aggressive. He actually shows kind of some of the limitations of the Lorraine here. I think he only gets 2 of the clip into this IS-6. 2 of the 4, which is kind of surprising. And you know, it just struggles, and you see how long it is to sit there and aim. It's just a pain in the ass.
I mean, he should have. I mean, that was kind of a misplay by him, to be honest, because the IS-6 was practically brain dead, and I mean, he was staying faced in that one position. Like, even if the Lorraine did make a move around him, the IS-6 would have still been focused on those tier 7s, so he could have made a big play and possibly gotten 6k damage, and that especially plays into him taking a little more time to aim at the beginning, and especially making sure all 4 of his shells counted on that IS-6, but nevertheless, it was a very good game.
Yeah, very good game. 5,900 damage, but you're right, it was very, very close to a 6k game, so I appreciate X-Hecker. I don't know if he's a player or not, don't know the guy, but I appreciate the replay. Certainly a huge damage. Well, thank you, Goose, for joining us. Excellent video. Final thoughts. What's better, the 5100 or the Lorraine?
I would honestly say the 5100, but again, it depends on your playstyle. Personally, I played the 5100 before as well, and I'd have to say I like the Lorraine better just because of the spotting ability and mobility factor. Because, I mean, the AMX 5100, even though it's considered a heavy, you have to play it like a medium, and it may have, like, higher clip damage and just better accuracy and, like, things like that in general. Just, personally, I feel like the Lorraine suits me better just because of the speed and mobility.
That's awesome, man. Well, thanks, Goose. Thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Enjoy the video, everyone.